Guys, and welcome to AAC Innovations episode 10. I'm Laura Hayes. This is my counterpart, Cheryl Livingston, my better half. She and I just wanted to kind of talk to you this week a little bit more about supports for autism, since we know that is a huge population of kiddos that we support here.
Yeah. And I think one thing we always have to keep in mind about our students with autism is it's such a range. So again, like we've said it before, but if you've been a student with autism, you've met a student with autism. You can't say that you know everything about them, but how it could be, all kinds of different ways that we know they need support, but the ways we support them needs to be based on their need, not just a canned response that we have.
100%. So, but thinking of that, Cheryl, I mean, like you said, I can think of so many unique stories about individuals I've worked with throughout the years, but any fun finds that you can think of for this week?
Yeah, again, just the idea of understanding, having a way to not only us, the adults working with them, but their peers, their family members, what can we do to help? So just a couple of suggestions. Disney has really been trying hard to, share my screen here, to give us a chance to see a perspective wise about what's going on with these kiddos. So there's one, and these are on YouTube, is where I'm getting these, one called Loop. And if you haven't already seen that,
So is this a short?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only 2 minutes and 27 seconds long, and it's about a little girl, and they're at camp, and she's with this young man, and they're going to take a little voyage in their canoe. But he gets to kind of see more about what she's interested in and what's going on. And then there's another one. Let me go back here and share. Called, where did it go? All right, let's try it this way. If I go to this one, there. Can you see now? It's Bao, B-A-O. And
That's out of Pixar. Okay.
Pixar, yeah. I gave Disney credit.
Disney. Yeah.
Pixar. I know. To me, they're one big happy family. Mm-hmm. And this one is a mom working with her son and getting, again, a perspective of what she's seeing. But there's, just watching them and understanding more about what life is like.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, one of the things that I feel like we get asked a lot with this population is or just mentioned to us, is the fact that they can't find anything that they're interested in. Like, it's always back to the interest, right? Because they're not interested in necessarily being social, and they definitely aren't necessarily interested in just sitting down and doing the traditional academic pen and paper tasks, which, these days a lot of kids are not interested in that.
No.
Especially
that goes for a big number of kids, not just the kids we support.
Yeah. So when we think about kids that have autism and sensory needs, we'll talk about some other things. I know in your interview with Gina, and we'll demo some activities that you can do. But I once again wanted to just highlight something out of Amazing Kids. Angela had put together a list back in 2017 of her favorite 9 toys and a book that she really likes for using with the kids that have autism. So if you go to her website, which is amazingkidsllc.com, and then you search in the top autism faves, 10 autism faves, it was posted on our August 10th, 2017. But it's a lot of the same faves that I have or that I've stumbled across since she posted it. So the Pop It toys, where it pops, you squeeze the stomach and it pops out. There's a electronic remote controlled Thomas the Train on there. There's this really, it's very simple, but it's very motivating. It's called the Spin Again toy, and it just has little cog wheels that spin all the way down, and then you set them back up and they spin again. So a few other ones, but just really simple, again, affordable toys that you could budget for that are going to engage kids because they're visual, they're auditory, they're kinesthetic, they're hitting all of those things that we know might be beneficial for our students.
And for communication, there's the chance for do it again. So that helps us to have a chance to go back and forth as far as engagement goes, because it's not one and done. It's something we're going to do for a while. So I like that.
Well, and a lot of them, it's quick, you know what I mean? So many times I think we get stuck in activities that are really long. And when I say really long, I mean anything over 30 seconds, or even when that's one of the reasons why we talk about Tar Heel gameplay, because it automatically stops musical things at intervals, so you can keep them nice and short, so you're getting a lot of communication opportunities. So these toys that she's highlighting, I would say, based off my experience, they're quick in the sense that like you can set it up so they get the reinforcement and then 10 seconds later they're going to need to request more, or
Right.
you're having an opportunity for them to comment or to ask a question.
Or something could go awry. I'm thinking of the ball popper. There's no telling where that ball is going to go. So we talk about that, and
Right, where'd the ball go? Like, I don't see it. You hit
look
me.
under.
No, wait, I'm sorry. That's Wesley again. He has one of those. The other day, he like came up to the side of my head and went boom, and I was like, "What did you just do?"
It's a weapon as well as a toy.
Be careful, these projectiles, my friends. The balls are soft, but just got to be on your toes. So,
well, it's that element of surprise will get you every time.
100%. So just, check out Angela and AmazingKidsLLC.com when you have time, because those are really great. Again, we'll talk about some other sensory supports in a little bit that you can check out that are just quick, engaging, motivating, and can build a lot of communication opportunities, especially if you're just getting started with somebody that has a lot of sensory needs. Those can be really motivating. But again, what I like about all these toys that we talk about for kids with autism is that in general, they're just motivating for everybody. I mean, you can use them all day for any student because they're so motivating at different levels, talking about any kind of language. So I know you had the opportunity to speak with Gina Nolan, again, a wonderful asset that we have here at SSD.
Who is also a speech pathologist as well as a autism EPS. So she's looking at all of the different aspects of her students, and I'm proud to say she definitely puts emphasis on communication. So that makes it good for us.
100%. So sit back, and here's Cheryl's interview with Gina Nolan.
Hey guys, welcome to AAC Innovations, and I am Cheryl Livingston, and today I have a friend of mine with me, and her name is Gina Nolan. Gina, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you've been over these last several years of your career?
I'd love to. So I am Gina Nolan, as you mentioned. I am an AUEPS for SSD, which means an effective practice specialist for autism. I started my career as an SLP in 1993. Prior to that, I worked at Judavine Center already with autism, with individuals with autism, just so that I was already interacting with our population. So I've been in the field for a long time. I have maintained my specialty with kids with autism. That's my passion. It's what I love to do. And being an SLP, I'm very grateful to be able to help this population be able to communicate.
All right. So how did it evolve that you became an autism EPS?
Well, I obviously was an SLP, and then probably about 7 years ago, actually it's been longer than that. I apologize.
I didn't realize it'd been that long.
It's longer than that, that I came to SSD. So all the years I had different jobs. I was working in the private sector primarily with Judavine Center for Autism, Giant Steps for Autism. And then I came to Special School District as an SLP supporting a self-contained program in the Melville School District. I was basically a co-teacher in the program, And we were together about 4 years. And then this is my 5th year as an autism specialist.
Okay, cool. So it was meant to be. You just evolved, just moved right through all those so that now, because now as an autism EPS though, what is it, how is that different than being a speech pathologist?
I have the luxury of specializing in one group of kids who have severe communication disorders. Obviously, individuals with autism, that is a social communication disorder. And I, as an SLP, but as an AUEPS, I get to hyper focus on individuals with autism. I get to support teachers and SLPs and administrators throughout the county to be able to provide students with best practice, to do evidence-based practices in their classroom to make sure that we are providing the best we can for our students throughout the county.
Okay, so which areas do you support? What are your districts?
Currently, I am supporting Bayless, Melville, Valley Park, Rittner, Pattonville, and all of Parkway Elementary Schools.
So you've got a few kids on your caseload. And again, you're definitely, in tune to their communication needs, but ideally you come in and you support all kinds of issues that the teachers and the team need you to help with, right? It's not just communication.
Well, primarily I think of it from the communication lens, but I get my most calls for behavior, right? We know that individuals who have social communication challenges have difficulties communicating appropriately, which a lot of times results in behavior. So the majority of what I get called into is not, hey, my kid's not communicating. Most of the time, what I get called into is, we need help. This kid is doing X, Y, Z. So that's usually where they call us out.
And then it kind of evolves into communication because that's the lens that you're looking through. So just in general terms with the students that you support, and again, they're all different. Every student with AU, every student that we come across, no matter what their diagnosis is, unique. But in general, what would you say you wish teams and people supporting your students knew? What are some general things that and like you've kind of already mentioned, the communication piece is something that I wish people thought of that quicker.
A couple of the things that comes to mind immediately is that I wish people knew that our students are capable of developing relationships, right? And communication is not just meant to be a means to an end. Communication is that vehicle to connecting with other people. So in order to do that, whatever system an individual is using, they're capable of making those relationships. And what I love the most is to be able to help teachers, parents, support paras or whatever, develop relationships, because that's when you know that you're hearing the child's voice. So I think the other thing that I really wish people knew is that it's important for us to hear their voice so that they continue to self-advocate throughout their life, right? When I think of what I hope and dream and what I devote my life to is developing individuals who are successful in the community. And to me, that means for them to be able to self-determine and self-advocate.
Right. And that has to be taught. That's not just something that's innate and you just, and I worry that sometimes the perception is, well, some of the kids can, but then those that can't won't ever. And that's what you're trying to emphasize is that, they have that potential. We just have to tap into what's the best way for them to show it.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things, is really developing and helping a child see the power of communication, right? So to me, when I'm in a situation, I want to make sure that the child starts to learn that communication is a powerful tool. It helps you bond with other people. It helps you state your needs, how you feel, share experiences. So it goes well beyond just I want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so.
And again, because it's not something that's easy for them, they don't automatically know that. I think that's what, again, people thinking, well, he's choosing not to communicate. But I worry that our kids, they don't know what that means. They don't know what that looks like. So how are they going to start without us really taking the time to A, give them ways, and B, give them opportunities? Okay.
Agreed. Love it.
So as far as, what would you say percentage wise, just off the top of your head, of the students that and again, you're only called in for the ones that somebody is saying, I need help, right? I mean, you don't have every student with an SSD on your caseload. So with the diagnosis of autism. So the ones that you get called in for, how often is communication a struggle? What percentage would you say?
100% of the time.
Okay. Even the kids that are verbal?
Even the kids that are verbal, because as an SLP and me looking through the lens of social communication, a lot of times, even those kids who are very dysregulated and can't express their emotions appropriately, aren't sure how to fluidly interact with others. To me, it's always that when it's a kid with autism, because there's always something we can work on in the area of communication.
So, and again, as an AAC facilitator, what I always, well, he can talk, but is he saying what he means to say? And are we understanding what he is saying? But then again, it's like that whole, like you said, there's more to communication than just stating something. It's that interaction, and it's that understanding of how each other is feeling, so that maybe we need to be different in how we communicate. But yeah, no, we hear that often, a lot, that we don't need you, Cheryl. It's like, maybe. And again, I don't have magic, but is there ways that I could help? But I see definitely your understanding of, especially that social communication piece, is definitely something that we need to help people understand better.
Absolutely. I mean, with me serving the population of autism and it being a huge spectrum, I serve individuals who communicate with behaviors primarily, right?
Right. Because that's worked, right? I mean, that's right. Yes. From beginning of their lives, behaviors work.
Right. And then all the way through highly conversational partners who still could use that support and learn how to be more savvy with their social competency and approach, and more appropriate. So, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that narrows it down 100%.
100%.
It's like, and again, and I appreciate the fact that, like you said, it's a range. It's not, they all don't need the same support, but we definitely need to be more open to what we can do to support them. So when we talk about AAC, augmentative and alternative communication for students, have you seen some changes over your career as far as your understanding, what's available, everybody else's understanding and openness to it?
Oh, come on, Cheryl, just a little. I mean, you're talking to a woman who didn't have the benefit of Board Maker.
Right.
And when it first came out, it was black and white pictures. We used to.
It was a binder that we copied.
A binder. Yes.
So, Regina and I are about the same age.
And I'll say for both of us, we're old.
Yes. Well, I've already declared myself as the oldest living speech pathologist. So you're just a little bit behind me.
So that evolution, when I first started practicing and working with individuals with autism, what we didn't have a whole lot of systems, right? Things that we could teach that were already provided.
Right. You were on your own.
One of the biggest things that I can remember is that we started PECS. PECS, I think, late 1980s, maybe early 80s. That was where that sort of evolved and started the actual PECS system, not as opposed to pictures, right? We also, and when we think about very low tech things, that's all we were able to do at that point. We used to use objects and real life pictures. I can remember going around with a Polaroid camera all over to make sure that I could make a communication system for my students. We were very blessed, I guess, maybe if I had to guess, maybe around 2000, or maybe a little later than that, later, maybe 2010. We started to have a little bit more options with some electronic devices that were actually in the AU area, right? We early or late 90s, we also did a lot of that facilitated communication. And when doing that, that was a big controversy. But a lot of that was picture based or letterboard based or typing. And then we started to have the electronics, and obviously that evolution probably parallels other individuals who require AAC with devoted devices, and then the iPads and all of that. So we are very blessed these days to have a multitude of choices to be able to find systems and supports for all of our students in the area of AAC.
Okay. And as far as, because there is a wide range, do you see, or how do you describe like the stepping stones that can be, involved? It's like, I see, you can start here, but then you build, and then you go to here. I worry that sometimes people think you've got to go automatically to the highest, most sophisticated thing. And I think sometimes we stress our students out by having maybe a little too much too fast. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think another thing that sort of parallels with what you're saying is that sometimes it's just that our individual is thinking in pictures. So something very low tech, even as a visual support, can help them communicate and help them comprehend. So it will support their language and their communication.
And something that's in the moment versus something you have to like think ahead of what you're going to say. Or I think sometimes we don't appreciate how much we need to help our kids in that moment in time, and then later go back and talk about it. But we have a tendency to put something in front of them and say, well, here, tell us why you're upset. And it's like, no, that's not a good time to compose a thought.
Right. I have two probably basic tools that have been a constant in my professional career from the time I started till now. Dry erase boards and a package of markers and some nice white paper. It's amazing what you can do with individuals with autism with those simple tools to support them, to communicate, to express themselves, to learn language.
So you're saying, Gina, that even kiddos that they don't, we don't say, oh yeah, he writes, he spells, you're finding that if you put that in front of them, you're going to get information out some way or another?
Well, because if I don't think he can produce that, then I can draw something.
Oh, you draw. Okay.
I can draw, or I can write something, which I find as a very strong tool. So if I'm going to meet, in addition to working for SSD, I do see private clients throughout the county. And of course, never served by SSD because I don't break those things. But if I'm going into a new person, even if it's in our school district, I always make sure I have those tools with me because it gives me something to create a visual, right? It makes my language visual. So.
Oh, wow. No. And okay. So,
Carol, right? Like,
and it's like, duh, but yeah, it's perfect. But so again, I want to harp on this for a minute. It's like, A, you're making it visual. B, you're taking the stress off of the auditory processing that has to be done. And me personally, again, I'm talking old SLP here. I worry sometimes that we put so much emphasis on, well, we talk to the kids. What's wrong? It's like, think about what they're hearing. And I hear people on Facebook, some talk about with, different Zoom calls and stuff. Now we know more about what Charlie Brown was hearing from his teacher because having to, but I do think our kids hear that. They just cannot absorb, especially the speed that we fire it. And some of us are fast talkers. And yet we assume and we put the blame on them for not following the direction, or for he's choosing not to. I get most upset with the people that are like, well, that's just because he doesn't want to. But again, you're saying go in with we go in with visuals, either just in the moment drawings or stuff we've prepared. But then also, do you see the students give you information back on the dry erase board? Or
I mean, our students, obviously their skills range. And I think about a kid could make, even a behavior. So even if I have something that I can draw or write on, I can communicate with an individual with autism at some level, right? And it could be very basic. And usually, even if he's not able to, and I say he because the prevalence, right?
Yeah, I have a tendency for that too. I was like, it just automatically comes out as a he, but yes, he's and she's. I have them both on my caseload.
She, right? But most likely a he, 3 times more likely. So when I'm interacting with this individual, I can look at his behaviors, how he reacts. I can look at his body. So he may not be using writing back or language back. He may be using those symbolic language.
Right.
However, something happens, and that will usually start to see an interaction.
So again, that gives you good time to observe, to be more.
Yep. So even observing, using things in the environment, perfectly acceptable, right? Like when we're talking to an individual with autism and we're speaking, and that's the hardest area, we're putting extra stress on an individual. So when we're able to parrot those things that are concrete stay, and it could be an item, right? Or a picture or something, but that is a concrete thing, and it becomes very literal, and it's not as transient as a word. A word just goes away.
And you were talking about paper, excuse me, versus dry erase board. I can see then, even just in that example, the paper, you just keep them. I can see you just taking another piece of paper and stacking it underneath it, but then you can pull it back out and, oh, is this what you're talking? So yes, all that. And I think, again, we need to emphasize that so much throughout all of our interactions with staff is speech is transient. It's fleeting. On how many times have I wished I could rewind the radio? I've gotten used to being able to rewind the TV with the, video box and everything. And I'll be in the car listening to the radio and go, oh, what did you, I wasn't paying attention. And I want to go back and hear it, and I can't. So yeah, no. And that leads
commercials, and you say, wait, I need that.
What was that about? Yeah. So that kind of, again, my next question that I had for you was, what do you wish more teachers, SLPs, could do to support communication? And you just gave a beautiful example that, gosh, I'm gonna go out and buy pads of paper for everybody.
It's really silly, right? But at the beginning of the year, actually, I think my husband thinks that over my career, I probably should have already invested in Crayola markers, Sharpie markers, and paper. But it's a very powerful tool because that is a concrete visual. It doesn't have to be high tech. It doesn't have to be elaborate. And it's a starting point, right? It's the starting point to say, I'm here to interact with you. Let's find our common ground, because that's what communication really is.
Yeah.
It's about communicating with an individual who doesn't speak your same language. Those are really powerful tools when you think about communicating with an individual with autism. You have to read their body language. You have to read the context. And that's probably an area that our students struggle with the most. So we have to be doing the work and really being very purposeful and aware of what we're setting up.
Yeah. And I'm loving the fact that, like you were just saying, Crayola markers, if you have a variety of colors, that's just another an opportunity to communicate as far as making choices and sharing or commenting, or, it's just, even though you're in the middle of doing something else, it's just one more thing. I love that back and forth as opposed to us just talking at them. So
yeah.
Anything else you wish SLPs and teachers were Just automatically doing?
Automatically doing, I wish that everyone presumed competency. So the thing about even some of our individuals who are nonverbal or our social partners, if you're using the CERTS language, those individuals still have thoughts, right? And feelings and emotions and opinions and
sometimes very strong ones. So that's
right, exactly. So, and the barrier isn't necessarily in the thinking part of it, but it's in the possibly the motor planning part of it or the expressive part of it. So just keeping in mind that comprehension and expression are two separate systems, and that we sort of have to have a baseline and figure out, because I repeatedly get called into rooms where teachers are struggling with behavior, and it's usually a student who doesn't talk, right? Because people who don't talk have to express themselves some way. And even when we talk, let's be honest, we all use behaviors, right?
Yes. Yes.
But especially when a child is challenged by being able to use language fluidly to be able to communicate, a lot of times they won't even understand that their thinking is that the kid can't do. So they're boring the kid and they're working against themselves. So they're creating activities, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, when the different result really probably needs to be a way for the child to communicate and express himself. So that's something else I wish they knew, a trick of the trade, right?
And when you said that about, we all do behaviors, and that's what I can be very verbal, which, sometimes that's getting me in trouble. But if you and I are not agreeing, let's say we're having a discussion and we don't agree, I am going to still get upset, even though I have said everything I want to say. It's the fact that you didn't do what I wanted you to do. So like you were saying, we've got the full range of communication abilities, but that doesn't mean that just because you can say a bunch of stuff that you're not going to be upset, you're not going to be stressed out by the fact that there's too much going on. I mean, it's just, I want to be more open to the fact that our students perceive things differently. So their level of agitation because of something or noise, we have to appreciate it. We can't just because I'm not upset doesn't mean he shouldn't be upset. So I think that's something that
that's a Saturday morning, a regular Saturday morning at the Nolan house, right? I might go nonverbal and start kind of slamming some, things down on the countertop because I'm annoyed my husband looks so relaxed on Saturday morning, when that's just my morning, right? We all behavior.
We do.
Those behaviors are important for us to know what purpose they serve. So like, what function are they serving? And I think that's probably another good starting point, is to think about what is the intended communication, what would help this child to be able to express themselves, and start there. So that's really a good place to start.
And for how often do we honor what they express? I worry sometimes too that, it's really obvious he does not want to do this work, and we still keep at it, so I wish we were more like, again, that give and take of, oh, you're saying no? Okay, well then I'll walk away for a couple minutes. And then we come back. It's not that we don't do anything, but I worry that we just have this battle that we're trying to push them through.
Well, along that lines, sometimes I will see kids early language learners, right? Self-advocating by walking out of a group or holding, when another student having a hard time or yelling or whatever, making too odd of noise or something. And that child needs to be empowered to understand that that's appropriate, right? To be able to advocate and say, that hurts my ears, right? So I think that we're in total alignment here when we say, you know what, when a kid is swiping the work away, we don't just come back with, you are doing this today, Johnny. I see you don't like that. You might need help, right? and support the communication that way. I don't like it. You know what? I don't like certain things either, right? Some
Right.
things, and what the lesson becomes that his voice is important. We honor his voice, walk away, we restart, and then we can make something very visual that says, first you're going to finish this, then you're going to get this really cool thing, right?
Right.
So that's when some other evidence-based practices kind of merge, right? Because we teach them the power of communication, but we also have to get them through the academic parts.
Yeah. But I also think, in addition to the power, is the trust of you as their communication partner, that you're listening.
100%. I see sometimes when an individual is not verbal or using behaviors to communicate, that at times it's where teachers need to start. Let's find that common ground, even if it's not talking and doing a play activity like bubbles. Just something for you and I as two beings sharing space to exist in. And I think it's in those very small but meaningful activities you're going to start to build that rapport, that trust, and the relationship. And really, that's what communication is for. So you're teaching communication when you're blowing a bubble and then you're waiting, and then the kid looks over at you because he kind of wants more. You can model that language, right? But you're also teaching back and forth.
Reciprocity.
At that point, right? You're teaching turn taking, and you didn't even have to use a word. So I think that it's important for us to think about all of the levels of what communication means. And social communication doesn't start only after you have words. Social communication is part of that language development and that joint attention and that ability to relate and interact with another being. So,
and it can start at any age. I definitely feel like it, just because it wasn't easy, it didn't happen automatically, doesn't mean it won't happen later. So,
one, I feel like it starts from birth on, right? Like we have to think about how joint attention and our emotions, those are things we just start with. And it's sort of that continuum of what that is. And I mean, when we think about being able to regulate ourselves, some people, it's from birth on, we're tasked with that. It's just, are we using somebody else to help us regulate, or are we doing it ourselves, you know? So, I mean, I think it's really important for us to expand our understanding about really just even the term social communication and what that involves.
No, my worry or fear is sometimes when that term is used, it becomes more of that social of hi, bye. It's like, no, there's so much more to life than just highs and byes. And I worry that I want to redo the vocabulary. I want to change the names of things so that it's more obvious. I don't know. Like you mentioned PECs a while ago, sometimes just because you used a picture, people say, well, yeah, I'm using PECs. And it's like, no, it's picture exchange communication system. And can we change somebody's name? Can we retitle something? So we've kind of talked about these already, but the biggest challenge with AAC right now, do you see that people are thinking it's magic, that they're resisting it because it's too high tech? What do you see right now?
I see kind of a range of challenges, but I would say the one commonality that people seem to have is that people have this preconceived notion that it's magic, that you put it there and it doesn't need to be taught. No, he doesn't like his talker. Well, he doesn't understand the power of what that thing is or how to use it, right? And I say talker loosely. A lot of times I say talker, and it doesn't necessarily even mean an electronic device. It could be a binder with pictures. Let's just say it's that child's language, representation of language.
That's communication system, yes.
System, exactly right. And I think one of the biggest things is that it takes a lot of repetition. So, and you're talking about a population who requires even more repetition for learning sometimes, right? And motivation.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that gets confused and misread sometimes with our students when they're not partaking in something. It's sort of like he doesn't want to, or that's not a skill that he cares about, or he doesn't want to interact. It may be that he doesn't have the word, he doesn't have the tool, he doesn't have the support. So I think thinking about the biggest challenge throughout the entire county that I serve, right, is that we have to have that patience and that stamina with our students and keep coming back. And it takes a lot of, falling down and stand back up as a teacher, as an educator, as an SLP. But for me, that's one of the biggest things that is a challenge, to understand that it's not that it's not that system that's not working, because whatever system we decide together, if we're committed to it and we use it every day, all day, and we model and show the power of how it works, we can almost make any system work. Let's be honest, right? So I think it's more in the endurance and that stamina that it takes to be able to find success with AAC.
And I like to use the term diagnostic therapy. I wish we were better about, well, okay, so this isn't at the moment not really great. Well, what can we do different within it? I have a feeling that we have a tendency to abandon, but if we just tweaked more often, we would find some better success story or better opportunities.
Exactly. I think being continuous improvers, as a whole is super important. And we're never going to just pop open something and go, this is the answer, right?
Hasn't happened yet.
That's exactly right. And it's troubleshooting, and it's active troubleshooting. But we have to stick with certain things long enough to see that. And that's my biggest worry. I think even making sure, that you are reaching out to like AUGCOMP facilitators and EPSs or whoever can support, and making sure. I think the one thing that I feel is the most important is the symbolic representation level, right? So that to me is going to be a bigger indicator of success than whether it's LAMP, pro, lo, quo, this, that, the other, right? The biggest thing is that we are working on with the child's level, and that we are creating a system that can be understood from and accessed from our students. So.
Yeah, just because it makes sense to us doesn't mean it automatically makes sense to them. And we definitely realize more and more, I think, now that, what they perceive, that, a picture, a color picture, line drawing, photo, it's all different. And it's what they understand. It's what we need to be emphasizing.
And it's putting in that work to figure it out. Like, it's hard work. It's labor intensive, and it's not an easy, quick fix. But it's so worth it, because I think of so many of the kids that, and I know with what you do for a living, right? That you've seen that, like, this is it, like that, when there's that thing that gives them the power to interact, and you're like, I literally am getting goosebumps right now, because it's just one of those things that, when you got it. So.
Yeah. And it's worth, like you said, all the effort to keep at it. But again, part of our system is turnover. So about the time maybe somebody's moving forward, then we change different teacher, or we change different SLP, or we change, to a new building. And so it's just, I wish we were better about continuity between teams, even, that we could continue that. Well, speaking of getting goosebumps, what's one of your favorite AAC moments with a student or with yourself? Kind of, when do you feel like light bulbs went off?
That's it. You know what I was going to say? I had a really hard time finding something that met motivation, work effort, right? And ability level, and sort of, we tried to really, we knew this kid had all kinds of wheels turning up there, and he just couldn't, we couldn't find the right thing. And the day it was actually with a prox talker.
Okay.
We had tried some things, and he was a kid who really liked that auditory feedback. We couldn't jump all the way to an electronic, sort of a thing. It wasn't working either. And when we tried that, and he ripped off the things, and he went like this, and he was like, the minute that he accepted and that was his voice and he had control with this particular student, I mean, and we're talking about a student who, when he came into kindergarten, he really didn't have any system.
Right.
Nothing. And so, I mean, I have so many of those stories. Gosh, how do I choose one? But that one comes to mind. Just that look on his face, like, that is what I want. And I did that, so.
And it wasn't just a single picture, right? He put together.
No, he actually ended up creating a whole sentence with
every
button he put on there. And then he got it was just beautiful, right? Like, it was amazing. And so I think that's probably one of my biggest, it's that emotion that I find as a success that I remember, right? And sort of where it pairs that, aha, that's my voice. I think of another student that used to, when we tried we introduced an iPad. We were starting to get him on this, and he just could care less about it. We kept going. We kept doing what we needed to do. And it was just that one day when we realized that it was his voice, right? He wouldn't forget it from center to center when he was meditating. And then I think the one day that it clicked for me that, okay, we're there, right? It's his voice. This is what he wants to be, his voice, was when another student leaned over to use his talker and he whopped him. And he was like, that is my voice. What are you doing? You don't make me talk. Made my heart glow for a long time. And that's another one of those stories that
so that ownership of, hey, this is a part of me. Yeah.
This is a part of me, right? And even though it's an external thing, but this is how I get my inside thoughts out. And it's just, and when he did that, we were like, both of us in the room, I'm the SLP and the teacher, we looked at, I remember that exact moment, and we were like, all right, you know what?
Yeah.
And that's when we had to actually bring in another one that paralleled his, because he almost found it violating when, like, to use
a little too much ownership.
A little too much, right? Like, when we were trying to model for teaching, but we found ways around it. We used to use a laser. I used to use a little light and then guide him to what he was needing to find, and it worked. I mean, for that kid, it worked. But I think that's the sort of the end story, right? Like, when you have it and you can figure it out, you just got to keep going and have endurance.
Well, the fact that you found a way around the situation, because I've heard people say, well, he won't let me touch it, so I can't do anything, and I can't model him. So again, find things. I remember that way back when I first started as an outcome facilitator, there was a student, and I don't think he would have been on your caseload now, but just the idea of that possessiveness. And they said, well, he won't let you touch it. So I happened to be sitting in a group of kids, and another student had a device different from his, but that same idea. I was doing something with her, and next thing I know, he's handing me his device. So again, it's that trust of, hey, you can make things happen. Whoever before I told no to, I didn't trust them to give it back. I didn't trust them that they knew what they were. I don't know, but I always use that story for, like, no, when you're telling me he won't, let's take this the next step. So
I think something that kind of goes with that, when he knew he needed something programmed,
then he
would bring it to us.
Yes.
And he, if say a teacher changed or a parent changed and we didn't think ahead and change it, he would just be like,
yeah.
is updated for me, right?
Yes.
So,
So it wasn't that you couldn't touch it. It was more about this, like you said, this is a part of me. What are you doing what are you doing in my mouth? What are you doing in my hands? What are you doing? Yeah.
right. But he also was sort of had that balance to understand that we people putting the words in there.
I need you. Yeah.
But it was super cool though, because it was like, this is so powerful to me and it's me. So I don't want you to put things in that I'm not thinking.
Right.
You would even like,
especially academic words that I don't really care.
Definitely. I think it's also cute when he would like tell you when he wanted different words, but then when you would try to model new ways to use, right? Because we don't just use language to get things, we comment and we say how we're feeling. And one day I was like trying to read his body language and talk about emotions with him, and we never know how somebody's feeling, right? We can only use their outside. And I said, I feel blah, blah, blah. And then I said, and then I used his word, and then he goes, and he was like, I'm tired. So I guess
he corrected you. Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
He was like, I'm just grumpy because I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I was, how cool. So
yeah.
I've been very blessed to meet a lot of individuals with autism, and they've taught me, right? Like when we think about when you asked me that first question, really, they've been my journey. They've taught me along the way how to help them. So
no, I feel like we're all lifelong learners, and some of us are more open to it than others. So I appreciate the fact that you definitely have just kept learning and kept sharing, and I love the fact that you and I do have great conversations about stuff because you're asking. You're not just thinking you know it all. You want another person to give you just another viewpoint. It helps. It makes us better. It makes us better when we're trying to work with our students.
They're always better than one. So imagine all of us in the world putting our heads together, right?
And being open to each other's suggestions. You and I always have suggestions. It's whether or not, somebody wants to take them. Well, thank you so much, Gina. You were definitely so many students that you're helping. I wish I could list them off because I know that you've, teams across the whole St. Louis County over these years that you've been with SSD have definitely benefited from your experience.
Thank you.
And we'll continue. I mean, you're not retiring tomorrow, right?
Nope, not tomorrow. But I want to say the same thing to you because I love the collaboration I have. Even being an SLP, as long as I have in my specific field, we still need each other. And I think that's really huge. And you're always a great friend to reach out to. So
appreciate that.
No, it's still coming back at you, girl.
Oh yeah, man. And like I said, I like the challenge. I like the trying to figure out what what can we do different? What is different? But I love the fact that you talk about just watching your kids, because I find the same thing. And one of my favorite phrases is give him credit. Give him credit for the fact that he just realized that nobody was watching and he snuck out of the room. To me, that's a process of figuring it out. It's not just, it didn't happen by itself.
That was my yesterday observation when I could see the kid looking over like, okay, when she moves, I have a free way to run. And
yeah. But again, how
those plans?
I know sometimes I'm not that observant.
Yeah.
So like you said, wheels are turning. We just need to figure out what we can, and it's not just one thing. That's the other thing that you've mentioned. It's all different ways of communication. And I feel like sometimes we get stuck. We pigeonhole about, well, he should use this. It's like, no, he is using communication. It's just us tapping into what it is at that moment in time. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we could probably go on forever, but we better stop so people can, take a rest from their listening to a podcast. But again, thank you. Again, I can see us doing part 2 later with that. Okay, well, now let's take this to another level. We could also do one on certs. That would be cool.
I mean, I would love it. So
you taught me a lot.
I appreciate you, Cheryl. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to our next collaboration.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I am Cheryl Livingston, and this is Gina Nolan, and we're signing off.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Hi guys, it's Cheryl Livingston with AAC Innovations. And I just wanted to share a tip with you. And some of you may have been using this for months and months and months, and others of you maybe not so much. So it's worth sharing. Gina was just talking to us about working with her students with autism and how successful it has been for her to draw and to have paper or whiteboards. So that made me think we could also have electronic whiteboards, and that is a part of Zoom. So if you aren't already using it, let's explore what it looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to share my screen. And when I do that, whiteboard pops up, and that's already been highlighted here. I've clicked on it. I'm going to hit share, and there's my whiteboard. And again, I can draw freehand. There's already some shapes and things we can use. So, I don't have anything that I'm saying, oh, you have to use this for, but let's just pretend that we're going to talk to our student about going someplace. So when I highlight, hover over draw, I get an arrow. So I'm going to indicate that we're going to go, and maybe I'll put a couple arrows here. We're going to go, go, go. And maybe we're trying to talk about, well, where are we going to go? So I could go back into my draw. Let's change colors here. Let's make this green. And I could go to my lines, and let's say I'm just going to draw a big, oops. Actually, you know what? Let's not do that. I got an easier way. Let's choose this square here. It'll do it for me. I have to learn all my shortcuts. So we're going to go into this big room. And let's say that this is where we're going to talk about going into the gym. Maybe we get to go run around for gym. So how could we indicate that this is the gym? Well, we could type in the text. Okay. So this is our big gymnasium. And what do we do in the gym? Well, maybe we like to bounce balls. So let's put some balls over here, and I'm going to choose a different color. Let's like basketballs. So I got a ball here, and I'm going to draw now. Hang on, let's see how this goes. That we're going to shoot this ball up into this basketball hoop here. I'll put the pole down. My drawing definitely could use some work, and I'm going to draw on, let's make it a little different color. Let's draw the net here. So my point is, and besides that, I need drawing lessons, is that, we could talk about this and we could share information. I could then, indicate that we're going to shoot this ball up and put it in the basket. And maybe that way it would help our student have an idea of what's coming up next, what's going on. And again, in the moment, you make it whatever you need it to be. So that would be something that you might find helpful. And definitely when we're talking about reaching out to our students in a more electronic, virtual way.
Hi guys, and it's Laura from AAC Innovations, and I just wanted to quickly share with you some very quick, very easy ways to engage some sensory supports for our kiddos that we want a lot of opportunities for, that might be emerging communicators that struggle with sensory needs, that we want to get a lot of bang for our buck for. So I actually have bag full of sensory toys that I've collected throughout the years that fit this need. I pick them up from everywhere, a few places to kind of think about where you could find these there, and I'll share some websites in a second, but Target's Dollar Spot has some great things that cycle through for sensory needs. Cracker Barrel, believe it or not, has some wonderful switch activated toys and sensory, just little fidgets and things that you can use for a lot of language opportunities. And then the Dollar Tree or any of your dollar stores will have some of these gizmos that you can kind of keep an eye out for. But just to run through some, I have a blue crystal baton that when you hit it lights up. and it lasts for about 10 to 15 seconds. So that's pretty cool because, again, once it stops, you can have the student request more or go or turn on. They can also direct it so that they have the opportunity to take it from you. Anytime that you can get a lot of those opportunities quickly is going to benefit you. We've got a glitter lamp, and this is battery operated, so it changes colors and it shakes, so you've got multiple visual components to that, so that's pretty cool. This guy, Mickey, when the battery is and it's operating, you can turn it on, and it's a little fan, and again, you're controlling it, so you can turn it on, turn it off. Short, quick little bursts of communication opportunities. I go, you go. Look at it. Go fast. Oh no, broken, not working. It stopped. This little guy, which is a race car launcher, Cheryl has mentioned these in the past, but again, it's very quick, very easy. Push it back. This is a nice one too because sometimes it's hard to get it in there in the right socket, so they can ask for help. Put in, push the button, make it go. Go fast, go slow, no go if it doesn't go. Where'd the car go if it went underneath something? You've got your water wiggler, which this is a tactile one that they can put their fingers in, move around. You can talk about what you see inside, what color it might be. This one has a little space shuttle, 2 different little space shuttles, so we could talk about that. You do have to be careful with these because these can pop. I've had them pop on me before, but really fun for tactile input. We've got a light up top. These are really great because, again, you spin it, it lights up until the top stops moving, so then they can direct the activity again. Again, all of these things are meant to be very short, 5 to 15 second bursts because we know these kids need a lot of language opportunities, so bang for buck, this is going to help with that. I found these mini versions of Pop the Pig. This is a Pop the Unicorn, and I've got that's for the girls, and for the boys, it's a Pop the, I think it's a reindeer, but I found these at Dollar Spot. Again, it pops, go in, go out, where'd it go, where'd the ball go? Ouch. Like, you can have it, these are soft, so even my son has hit me with these before, and we get to laugh about it. Was it hard? Was it soft? All kinds of commenting there. And then last but not least, I always seem to find these circular glitter balls that are multifunctional because, again, they're visual. They've got glitter. They've usually got something inside them. You can see this is a pineapple-y one from Target. But then also you can roll them, throw them. They can go in things, on things, all of that jazz. So those are just some of my quick, pretty much dollar finds. I don't think I spent more than $1 on anything I just showed you. And then if you're still looking for more, if you have things like that and your students are still struggling, there's a few different websites I just wanted to share with you. The first one is Fidget Sensory Toys, and that is by, I think it's pronounced Geddes. It's Geddes. And so if you go to Raymond, RAYMOND, GEDDES.com. There's a ton of school supplies in here, but one of which is these novelties, and they've got fidget and sensory toys. So that includes some of the things I've shown you, like squeeze balls. They've got putty packets and fidgets. These rainbow poof pens, I think, look really cool because, again, you can get the tactile and the visual. You don't really need the pen component if you can kind of adapt that to get the tactile feedback. Squishy balls, again, putty. There's different kinetic sand things in here, but you can look through that. The other thing that's really good is if you don't have something that you can get a lot of opportunities to direct, like with Go or turn it on, you can do parts of an item. So these magnetile sets are really great because you can give one part and it's really motivating to put them together, hear them click. There's different colors that you could talk about commenting, there's different shapes, all of that. So magnet tiles are really great for that because it's a part to a whole. Similar if you were doing like train tracks or puzzle pieces, there's a part to a whole. So you would just withhold all but one and give little increments at a time. I found these pop tubes, which I thought also were really cool because again, they make different sounds. They can connect. You can talk about the colors. There's sensory components to them. So those are really great and fairly cheap. And then the last one, though these are all on Amazon. So the magnet tiles, they're called Budmo pop tubes. And then the last one is these Super Z outlet liquid motion bubbler activity tops. And they're kind of like lava lamps if you are older like me and you know what a lava lamp is. That they just have liquid that you can kind of play with and uses gravity to shift the liquid from one side to the other. So kids really enjoy that too. And again, you can comment on things like go down, go up, talk about the colors, talk about what you like about it, don't like about it. Those are all different things that we will throw in our handout for today. Just in general, we'll have some sensory things to start your activity, but just know that all of these are meant to be quick 10 to 15 second bursts before you allow another opportunity for communication, because for these emerging communicators, it's so important. Opportunities. Just get as many as you can in there so that they can really see the cause and effect. If you can do more than one of these activities side by side and work on the same, especially those core words, like the same target core word like go or on, they're going to have a faster carryover of understanding of those target core vocabulary words. So try it out, give us feedback. We'll probably start a list of these items and where you can find them and give you guys that resource on our website. So if there's ones that you want to add that you really find motivating, feel free to reach out to us and we can add those, or we'll make it editable so you guys can add them yourselves. Thanks for watching. Oh, Cheryl, that was so great.
I enjoyed doing that. She was a nervous wreck, she said, but I don't think it showed on the screen. So I'm glad we were able to spend some time together.
Love it. Yeah, she just such a unique perspective. And again, we have so many different supports throughout the district where we have just wealth of knowledge, and she is one of them. And just tapping into them and getting their feedback and support, especially if you're struggling with a student, I think would be super helpful.
Mm-hmm. And even I worry that sometimes we kind of save those resources for when, I don't know, we feel like we're floundering, we feel like we can't figure things out, but call quicker, contact them sooner and get things going. Don't wait till it's, everybody's stressed and negative in their thinking. So,
well, and I think too, it goes back to just coming up with that plan. Like, do you have a strategic plan? And Gina teaches certs, and that's a communication plan. And where does the students fall, and where can we take them? So, if we're getting stuck in these goals that we're feeling like we're rewriting the same goals every year, and the students not making progress, trying to come up with these strategic plans as a teaming group so that we can help guide them and really have some quantitative and qualitative data to say, here's where they're at, here's where we're going. I think that's super
and build on their successes. Yeah, we have, the age of the child means that they've been through already some stuff. Well, what's good? Build on that. What's still a challenge? Then let's find a way to deal with it. So yeah, I think if anything, my words of advice are always reach out, ask questions, just, and on your own, as far as reading and watching YouTubes, there's all kinds of information out there. I think sometimes we kind of forget how much we have at our fingertips for free.
100%. Yeah, so, well, we hope you enjoyed all of our resources, the whiteboard resource, the sensory supports this week, and our interview. Take care, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.
See ya.